Exposed, 5 spine-chilling true accounts of being watched by unseen forces in the dark. In the heart of a quaint suburban neighborhood in Ohio, where children laugh and the sun sets softly behind neatly trimmed lawns, something eerie stirs beneath the surface. Families here appear tightly knit, front porches filled with the chatter of neighbors sipping lemonade, yet secrets slumber behind every closed door. It's like a stage with a play unfolding, a gripping tale of shadows and whispers. Jake, a 35-year-old military veteran, just moved back into his childhood home after years away. The silence is deafening. Once, it echoed with family laughter. Now, it's an empty tomb, terrifying in its stillness. At night, under the flickering streetlights, darkness wraps around him like a shroud. He feels watched, an unwelcome presence pervading his dreams. Staring into the deepening dusk, it feels like the edges of his mind bend and warp, twisting reality into something unsettling. The neighborhood is alive with peculiar incidents. Once, a child's laughter filled an unmistakably empty hallway. No kid had been there. Flickering lights cast distorted shadows on the sidewalks, twisting the familiar into something terrifying. Doors creak open when the wind isn't even blowing a rustle, a whisper leaving Jack's heart racing with dread. Each night, the dread thickened. It was an uneasiness that made him wonder if he truly belonged here anymore. He finds himself standing by the window, peering through the dust-streaked glass, scanning the darkness for the source of this exchange with fear. Jake's only solace comes unexpectedly from Naomi, a fiercely independent single mother living down the street. She juggles 2 precocious kids and a demanding job, always seeming a step ahead. Together, they share uneasy conversations beneath dim porch lights, their voices low, mingling with the quiet hum of the night. Their bond grows, stitched together by shared fears, a connection neither anticipated but desperately needed. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the nights press on, the weight of supernatural whispers nudges them to dig deeper into the town's history. They speak quietly, almost resentfully, as they unearth tales drowned in grief and loss. The older couple across the street, still burdened by the tragic death of their son, loom over their backyard where laughter once rang out. A father, knee-deep in work pressures, listens closely, stretched thin, hearing noises late at night that have him clutching his chest in fear. And the young college student, who once brushed off spooky tales as folklore, now flinches at every creak in the floorboards. As they piece together the chilling puzzle, shadows inch closer, chilling breaths echo off walls. Then, a spine-chilling moment binds them, an ancient photograph linking them all together, a relic from a past laced with betrayal and the ghost of a woman named Margaret. The burying connection begins to twist into something threatening, leaving Jake's heart racing at the threshold of danger. Who or what truly watches them from the dark? Their lives are on the brink, and the neighborhood grips tight while the shadows linger just out of view, waiting patiently to strike. Each family's pain intertwines, and in this delicate balance rests an unfolding terror threatening to fracture the fragile bonds formed in shared despair. As Jake stares into the void, trembling with dread and curiosity, he must confront the veiled truth lurking beyond their doorsteps. What watches, and why? As the specter of night clung heavier, Jake's resolve began to waver. Every creak in the old house felt like a scream in a silence too vast to comprehend. He wanted to shake it off, to dismiss the unease, but the growing dread twisted inside him like a vice. Naomi was the only sound voice in all this chaos, a tether pulling him back from the brink of madness. "Jake, you can't ignore it anymore," Naomi urged one fog-laden evening, the chill seeping into their skin like ice water. They stood just outside his porch, flickering shadows around them as though their very existence was being scrutinized. "We have to find out who Margaret was. If she is connected to us, we need to know why." Jake nodded, but deep within him, fear pooled. Every step into the past seemed to bring forth something pulsating and ominous. They decided to visit the local library, a dusty building filled with overdue stories and cobwebbed secrets. Upon entering, they were engulfed by an unsettling quiet, one that pressed against them like a heavy fog, each echoing footstep amplifying their apprehension. "Do you feel that?" Jake whispered, an inexplicable chill coursing down his spine. Naomi nodded, her wide eyes betraying a hint of fear. "It's like we're not alone." They scoured the stacks, pulling out old newspapers and dusty tomes. Time slipped away as they read accounts of strange occurrences, ghostly sightings, mysterious disappearances, and heart-wrenching tragedies that had befallen the families all around them. Each article revealed a piece of history stitched together with grief. "I found something," Naomi exclaimed suddenly, her voice a sharp contrast to the thick silence surrounding them. She held aloft a brittle newspaper clipping from 30 years prior. The headline read, "Local woman, Margaret Lang, found dead under mysterious circumstances." Jake felt the blood drain from his face as he read further. She had been a beloved school teacher, known for nurturing the neighborhood children. Her death shrouded in unanswered questions, a tragic fall, they said. Yet it was pinned to a story of jealousy, betrayal, and heartbreak, leaving the community shattered. Hopeless whispers echoed through the clippings, revealing that no one truly believed it was an accident. "Look," Jake said, trembling. "This says she was last seen near that old oak tree down the street where her house used to be." They exchanged glances, realization dawning on them, the very place where Jake had felt that icy breath against his neck. The atmosphere thickened, choking the air in Jake's lungs. They were stepping into a web of too many secrets, too much grief lingering against the backdrop of the familiar. Do you think she's the one watching us?" Naomi's voice cracked, pulling him back. Jake swallowed hard, a lump in his throat threatening to choke him. "I don't know, but it feels like something is reaching out." Before they could settle into the gravity of their realization, a loud thud echoed from a nearby room, shattering the tense silence. The librarian turned wide-eyed, glancing nervously around the space, and muttered phrases of unease. A nervous silence settled around them, and Jake's heart pounded in his chest. Was it just the old building settling? Or was there something more malevolent lurking within? "Let us get out of here," Naomi urged, her voice barely a whisper as they hurried toward the exit. Outside, the air felt hotter than the chill inside, but it wasn't the relief they anticipated, it was a burning urgency creeping up their spines. As dusk deepened, the darkness mirrored the dread swirling in their minds. Shadows danced along the sidewalks, and behind them, a voice whispered, soft but chilling, "You shouldn't have come here." Who was this figure from the past? What hold did Margaret have on them, and why did they feel the noose of her memory tightening? They stumbled back down the street, adrenaline coursing through their veins like fire, every instinct screaming to run, to escape. The whisper echoed in the recesses of their minds, resonating with an uneasy truth they weren't alone, not in this neighborhood, not anymore. As they rushed back to Jake's house, a figure cloaked in shadows watched silently from across the street, eyes glinting in the dim light. "Who are you?" Jake whispered into the night, his heart racing faster than ever as a cold wind slithered down his spine. But the darkness only deepened its grip, leaving him with a singular, chilling thought: next time, the dark would not remain silent. What lay ahead was unknown, but it felt dangerously close, ready to pounce at any moment. The moment they collapsed inside Jake's house, the door slammed shut behind them, making Naomi yelp and clutch onto Jake's arm. He looked around, half expecting something sinister to emerge from the shadows. The only sound was the whir of the breeze through the cracked windowpane, but it felt like a warning, an omen. "We need to talk," he said, his voice shaking. They moved to the living room, the familiar surroundings now tinged with an ominous air. The old family portraits seemed to stare at them as if they were spectators to the unfolding horror. "Jake," that voice, it felt so real, Naomi murmured, shivering as she sat down. What if Margaret really is connected to us? How could she know we were there?" Guilt gnawed at Jake's gut. He had dismissed the ghostly stories of the past, but his encounter near the oak tree had felt too vivid to dismiss. What if it's not just her? He whispered, fear pooling in his chest. What if it's something bigger? Like she's a part of something that's still going on. The flickering light from the old lamp danced like ghosts around them, and Naomi's eyes widened in alarm. You mean it's not over? Whatever happened to her hasn't stopped? As they exchanged fraught glances, the wooden floors creaked unnaturally beneath them. The hairs on their arms stood on end. The air thickened, heavy with something unshakable. A low thud reverberated from the staircase, as if someone or something was trying to ascend. Jake, what was that? Naomi's voice trembled, cutting through the oppressive silence. I don't know, he stammered, his heart racing. Panic tightened around him like a vice. We can't stay here. They moved toward the staircase, drawn by an inexplicable urge to confront whatever lingered above. Carefully, they climbed the steps, each creak amplifying the dread swirling around them. It amplified their breaths, quick and shallow. What awaited them in the darkened hallway? They reached the landing and paused, absorbing the heavy stillness, a silence so deep it felt unnatural. The soft beam of their flashlight illuminated the photographs lining the walls, now distorted by shadow. The faces looked different somehow, almost twisted, as if they were alive with secrets. Is this really where we want to be right now? Naomi whispered. Maybe we should just call someone, get help. Jake shook his head, biting back his fear. We need to know. We have to understand why this is happening. Just as he finished speaking, an icy gust burst forth from the closed attic door, whipping around them in a frenzy. It felt alive, chilling the very marrow of their bones. Jake! Naomi shouted, stumbling backward. Please, let us go. Before he could respond, the attic door creaked open slowly, revealing an inky darkness beyond. It was a beckoning void, and from within, an echoing whisper slithered through the gloom, wrapping around them like chains. Come find me. The air pulsed with an eerie energy, almost calling to them. Jake's heart raced as he peered into the unending blackness. He felt compelled, a mix of fear and fascination. Naomi grabbed his wrist tightly. No. You can't go in there. We don't know what's waiting for us. But his resolve hardened. He had to uncover the truth. They were in deeper than they realized, and they couldn't turn back now, not when they were this close to something that had haunted their very existence. Jake took a step forward, the pull undeniable. Just as he reached the threshold, a chilling scream filled the air, a desperate wail that wasn't his or Naomi's. They froze, eyes wide, terror coursing through their veins. Maybe we should check it out together, Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. Yeah, Naomi said, swallowing hard. Together. And as they stepped into the darkness, the door slammed shut behind them, their fates entwined with that haunting legacy, pushing them towards an inevitable confrontation. The question lingered in the air: what other truths lay hidden in the suffocating darkness, waiting to be uncovered? The darkness engulfed them, thick and suffocating. The moment they crossed the threshold, the attic felt like a separate world, a realm where fear was tangible. Naomi's breath quickened, the chill clinging to her like a second skin. What do we do now? She whispered, her voice trembling. Jake turned, his flashlight beam cutting through the black, searching for signs, anything that might provide clarity. Shadows flitted across the walls, distorted shapes dancing to a silent tune that both enthralled and terrified them. We listen. We wait, he replied, trying to suppress the doubt gnawing at his resolve. A thrill of electricity rippled down his spine as he heard it again, the faint, echoing whisper. Come find me. It wrapped around them, curling into Jake's ears, coaxing him deeper into the suffocating embrace of the attic. Naomi shook her head, pulling him back slightly. This is insane, Jake. We have to leave. Right now. No. The word burst from him, urgent and desperate. What if we're meant to be here? Maybe it's a part of understanding what happened to her, to Margaret. Jake felt a sudden surge of determination. They were the only ones left to confront whatever lingered in this haunted space. He took another tentative step, Naomi's grip tightening on his arm, her eyes wide with fear. Then, an abrupt thud echoed from the far side of the attic, a sound like a dozen unseen footsteps stomping closer. They both jumped, hearts racing. "Did you hear that?" Naomi gasped. "Yeah. I did." Jake's voice dropped to a whisper, dread latching onto it. His instincts screamed for him to run, but something deeper urged him to press on. "We need to find out what's going on." Slowly, they made their way toward the sound, heartbeat thumping in sync with each soft footfall. The flashlight's beam shook as Jake steadied himself, his breath shallow. A hidden compartment? An old trunk? Whatever it was, he had to know. They reached the end of the attic, and there it was, a dusty, old trunk, almost blending into the floorboards. Its brass hinges were covered in cobwebs, seeming to lie undisturbed for decades. The air thickened, smelling of mildew and something else, something almost sweet but rotten. "Jake, don't open it," Naomi warned, her voice shrill. "It could be dangerous." He hesitated, glancing at her. For a split second, fear flickered in his mind, but curiosity won out. He could already sense something profound awaited them. The answers they sought might lie within this very trunk. With shaky hands, he knelt before it and grasped the lid. Suddenly, a flood of cold air rushed past them, slamming against Jake's back, making him lurch forward. The trunk clattered open as if the very spirits of the attic wanted them to delve deeper into the mystery. Inside, there were old photographs, tattered letters, and a small, ornate mirror, its surface cloudy yet somehow reflective in the dim light. But as Jake reached, his fingers brushing over the shards of history, he felt an intense chill seep into him, reaching down to his bones. The whispers grew louder, echoing in his mind, enveloping them both. "Come find me," Naomi gasped as shadows began to swirl. The attic transformed around them, as if the very walls were alive, pulsating with energy. Jake's pulse quickened as spectral figures began to materialize, their faces twisted in sorrow and rage. What is happening?" Naomi stuttered, her eyes darting around in a panic. Jake gasped, heart thundering as he locked eyes with Margaret, her ethereal form shimmering amongst the others. "It's them, this is it." He realized. He wanted to scream, to run, but curiosity rooted him in place, drawing him closer. He desperately felt like he could understand her pain, her need for closure. But he feared the answer might lead them down a dark path. The only question that remained, would they be able to escape whatever horror this attic had become? And amidst the chaos, their thoughts collided. What if finding the truth was the last mistake they'd ever make? Jake's heart raced, each beat echoing in his ears like a war drum. The spectral figures shifted, their expressions a mix of sorrow and desperation. Whispering voices blended into a cacophony, overwhelming his senses. "Come find me," they called, pulling at something deep inside him. Naomi stepped back, her breaths quick and shallow. "Jake, we need to get out of here." Her voice trembled, nearly drowning in the rising tide of supernatural energy. She glanced nervously at the glowing forms, their hands reaching out, as if wanting to grab hold of the living, but Jake felt anchored, trapped by an invisible thread. "I have to know why they're here," he said, almost pleading with himself as much as her. He felt Margaret's longing, it threaded through the ether, fusing with his own growing desperation. What did they want? Suddenly, a strong gust of wind swept through the attic, slamming the trunk closed. The crystalline mirror rattled, the surface flashing briefly as if images danced beneath its cloudy exterior. Jake lurched for it, instinct screamed at him, "Look! What if it's dangerous?" Naomi protested, urgency coursing through her voice. But her protest faded as Jake lifted the mirror toward the flickering light, his reflection blurred and twisted. The form of a small child appeared, clutching a tattered doll, her wide eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Behind her, dark shapes hovered, their features indistinguishable. "Help us!" she whimpered, the sound like shattered glass. "Help me!" A jolt of horror shot through Jake. "What did we get into?" he whispered, instinctively taking a step back. As he turned to Naomi, he saw her face pale beneath the black shadows swirling around them. "We need to go, Jake, Now." She urged, grabbing his arm, but then the walls shifted again, grotesque faces flashed in and out of existence, anguish etched on every one of them. A chill settled deep in his bones. The air felt heavier, laced with history, secrets, and something sinister that gnawed at the corners of his consciousness. "Look at the mirror," he shouted suddenly, his gaze snapping back to it. The child wasn't there anymore, only their reflection stared back, wide-eyed, terrified. "Who are they?" A flicker of recognition crossed his mind, a piece of his fragmented thought sparking red-hot. The letters. The photographs. Maybe there was a reason they dug through the trunk. With newfound determination, Jake turned to the fading figures and shouted, "What happened to you? Why are you still here?" The whispering grew ferocious, a collective rage that sent shivers down his spine. "You must uncover the truth." "Uncover what?" Naomi cried out, her voice steeped in fear that tasted like iron. As if answering her, one of the shadowy figures stepped closer, its face shadowed but menacing. "Find the book," it hissed, the words curling around them like smoke. "What book?" Jake demanded, panic rising. The figure pointed toward the farthest corner of the attic. The flashlight beam faltered, revealing a small, dusty bookshelf hidden behind wooden beams. It had been obscured, a mere relic in this house filled with horrors. A heavy dread settled in his gut as another step brought him towards it, each movement relentless as the ghostly whispers intensified. "Find it before it's too late, Jake." Naomi pulled on his arm, trying to wrench him away. "This isn't safe." But he felt tethered, a refusal to turn back now. What if it leads to answers? He took another cautious step back, and as he did, the figures lunged, ethereal fingers grasping for him in a haunting display of anguish. The attic seemed to constrict around them, each breath harder to take as shadows tightened their grip. "We'll be trapped," Naomi screamed, terror plain in her wide eyes. But Jake's gaze remained glued to the bookshelf. "I have to know." Without deliberation, he dashed toward the hidden shelf. The moment his fingers touched it, a bone-chilling scream erupted around them, vibrating through the wood like an angry chorus. It clawed at their sanity, filling the attic with a cacophony of despair. As he felt the shelf shift under his hand, the chill ground down to his bones, tightening around his heart. The air crackled, tangible with energy, and all he could do was breathe deeply, bracing for the unknown. Then, realization hit like a thunderbolt. He understood that discovering the truth wouldn't just illuminate what had happened, it might unleash something far more sinister than he could fathom. What had he triggered? The strained fabric of their reality threatened to unravel, and he knew, deep down, this was just the beginning. And as the shadows pressed against them, waiting, he frantically asked himself, what was in that book? Jake's heart thundered as the screams echoed around him, wrapping him in a suffocating embrace. The bookshelf quivered beneath his hand, alive with impending dread. With a shudder, he pulled, yanking the shelf free from its dusty constraints. It groaned like a wounded beast, revealing its secrets buried in a twilight of forgotten memories. Naomi gripped his wrist, the panic in her eyes igniting an urge to flee. "We're not safe here," she gasped, but Jake was already lost in the thrill of the revelation. He glanced over his shoulder, just a moment to meet her terrified gaze, and saw the shadows slinking closer, drawn to his choice like moths to flame. "Just a second," he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper, as he rifled through the shelf's meager contents, brittle pages, ancient volumes, and a leather-bound book that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. The moment his fingers closed around it, a shockwave erupted from the book, sending a surge of energy radiating outward. The spectral figures shrieked, their forms twisting with anger and desperation. "No! Put it down!" Their voices cried, reverberating through the attic like a dark storm. "Jake!" Naomi's voice pierced through the tempest. She yanked at his arm with all her strength, desperately trying to pull him back to safety. We have to go. Now. But the moment felt electric, charged with the fire of potential discovery. With one fierce tug, he freed the book from its resting place and clutched it against his chest. The weight of it felt significant, laden with histories aching to be told. No. The anguished wails surrounded them, growing louder, shaking the very bones of the house. Shadows coiled around each corner, creeping closer, their malevolence thick enough to taste in the stale air. Jake! Naomi's voice shifted, straining against a rising tide of fear. Do something. The world around him felt blurry, distorted like a funhouse mirror, yet within that confusion, a fierce clarity took hold. He caught a glimpse of the cover, the title nearly obscured by grime and time, The Secrets of Hillstone Manor. It was an echo of everything he had hoped to find, yet now it felt like an anchor dropping him into a whirlpool. Get back! He shouted, now driven by instinct, as he willed the phantom hands away that grasped for him with desperation. Wind twisted through the attic like a cyclone, blasting his face, threatening to tear the very fibers of reality around him. But Jake found himself still rooted there, an unrelenting desire drawing him forward as if an unseen force was guiding him. He flipped the book open, and an ancient chill rushed through him. The pages were yellowed, words scrawled in elegant but faded script. The deeper he delved into the text, the more the whispers seemed to coalesce into a coherent, almost pleading cry, "The truth will set you free, but it may consume you whole." With sudden, frantic urgency, he scanned the first few lines. They spoke of lost souls, of forgotten tragedies hidden between the walls of Hillstone Manor. Details of betrayal, love, and grief flooded his senses, and for a brief moment, it felt as if the spirits themselves were hovering over him, eager for their story to be told and released from torment. Naomi pulled at his shoulder again, practically shouting now. Jake, we can't stay here. You don't know what you're dealing with. But his resolve only hardened. If I don't figure this out, they'll never rest, and neither will we. Then came the hardest choice. As the shadows lunged forward, Jake felt the pull of the past clash violently with his instinct for self-preservation. He had to decide, stand and face the unearthing of truths buried in time, or flee into an uncertain night with danger lurking at their heels. Turn back! Screamed one of the figures, their grief palpable. You'll unleash the darkness. With each second ticking away, Jake had to ask himself, did he have the courage to uncover a truth that could change everything? Or would the quest for knowledge doom him and Naomi to become part of the very history they sought to unveil? His eyes darted to the book again, the weight of generations pressing down on him. What would he choose in this moment of chaos? In a fragile silence, he made his choice, and from the depths of the attic rose a thick, oppressive fog, shrouding them both in mystery and dread. What lay within the pages, and would it bring salvation or destruction? Just then, a mirror on the wall shattered, fragments glinting like shards of fate, and as they fell, time seemed to splinter. What new horrors would emerge from the chaos? The fog curled around Jake and Naomi, thick and cold, wrapping them in a shroud of uncertainty. Shadows danced erratically, merging and separating like tendrils of smoke, and the attic grew eerily silent. Jake's heart pounded, a rhythmic background to the chaos he was pulling into sharp focus. Jake, please, Naomi's voice trembled, each word a fragile plea that twisted at his gut. Fear danced in her wide eyes, glistening like dark marbles in the dim light. He could feel it then, a pulse resonating through the book, strong and unyielding. The words etched into its pages were alive, thrumming against the very fabric of the air. The truth, he murmured, feeling the weight of it loom over him like the house's sagging beams. We have to know. As if ignited by his intention, the fog thickened, swirling around their legs. The whispers returned, a rising cacophony that pressed down on them. He must read on. The truth must come out. They called, each voice layered with urgency, their intentions twisted by despair. Get a grip. Naomi hissed, yanking at his sleeve, her nails biting into his arm. She was losing it, and he couldn't blame her. They were standing on the precipice of something unspeakable, and the air crackled with foreboding energy. What are we even doing? We don't know what that thing can unleash. Jake locked eyes with her. What if this is the only way to save them? His voice shook, tinged with doubt, but there was determination in his gaze. If they've been trapped here like this, we could help them. We could end this. Just then, the book flicked open in his hands, seemingly of its own accord. Pages flew past, words shimmering and curling like tendrils of smoke, illuminating the attic with otherworldly glows. Beneath the blinding light, a vision materialized, images unfolding and embedding themselves in his mind that he saw a woman draped in shadows, her face etched with sorrow yet framed by beauty. She looked familiar, her eyes pleading for understanding. There was darkness too, horrifying acts of betrayal and heartbreak, blood painting the very ground they stood upon. No. She wailed, her voice piercing through the veil of his mind. Don't be misled by the light. It hides the truth, it binds us. The word sent a shock through him, and suddenly clarity pierced the fog. It was a warning, a desperate admonition from the shades, urging him to rethink his pursuit. What happened in this place? He gasped, feeling the weight of history crushing down on him. Naomi clutched her head, unable to fight the rising tide of chaos. They're angry, Jake. We need to leave. She shrieked, backing toward the attic stairs. As if responding to her fear, the shadows surged forward, cascading like a wave of black ink. You dare wish for escape? The truth binds you, as it has bound us. They cried, clawing at the edges of the room, eyes glowing like dying embers. The very walls of Hillstone Manor trembled, veins of despair pulsing in sync with their agony. Jake felt a sudden surge of resolve. He was being pulled into the promise of uncovering a truth that would shatter their world. But could he bear it? He stood at the crossroads of fear and discovery, unsure if the truth would heal or obliterate them. With a deep breath, he refocused on the glowing book, its pages now blank but alive with potential. He realized suddenly, as another shattering cry echoed in the corners of his mind, that with every moment they hesitated, the past grew bolder, reaching out with phantom hands, desperate to reclaim its grip. Naomi, whatever happens, we can't back down now. Jake shouted, conviction blazing in his voice. He felt the components of fate aligning, as the crescendo of the shadows pulled tighter around them, but in the chaos, one final truth rustled through the air, pressing impossibly closer. Some truths are better left buried. And as they stood teetering on the edge of revelation, shadows coiled like serpents, tightening their hold. What would they unleash if they pressed deeper into the dark legacy of Hillstone Manor? It felt like they were standing not merely on the threshold of knowledge, but on the brink of unleashing a terror that had long lain dormant. Could they withstand it? Would they uncover life or death, liberation or a curse? The fog thinned then, revealing ghostly figures with unreadable expressions, as one whispered, the choice is yours. But be warned, there are fates worse than death. The shadows felt alive, a swirling mass of fear and desperation that wrapped around Jake and Naomi like barbed wire. Jake's pulse quickened as he stared into the depths of the attic, where the unfamiliar and the malevolent intertwined, daring him to cross the line into the unknown. Jake, please. Naomi's voice trembled, raw with panic. What if this is the worst mistake of our lives? Her distress rattled him more than the whispers. Ignoring her plea, Jake leaned closer to the book, its pages now shimmering with remnant images of histories riddled with sorrow and betrayal. He could almost hear the faint echoes of laughter twisted into sobs, a cacophony of lost joy. I have to know, he whispered, the gravity of his resolve pulling him further into the gloom. Suddenly, the visions swirled, coalescing into clearer images, a flash of a man with a grim look, matting blood on his hands. They will not forgive you for this, he hissed, the shadows distorting his form. The truth is a poison, and it will infect all who seek it. Did you hear that? Naomi pleaded, straining to keep the panic at bay. But Jake couldn't answer. He was entranced, as if the attic had come alive, wrapping them in its chilling embrace. The book sputtered a pulse, and eerie laughter overwhelmed the thin veneer of reality. It twisted around them like a storm, spiraling closer. Naomi staggered back, her breaths coming in sharp, panicked bursts. "Jake, we have to get out now." "No." Jake shouted, spinning to face her. "We can't leave. Not now." "I can't," he choked on his words, feeling the weight of the moment smother him. Each second lost felt like time stolen from the souls trapped within these walls. "I don't care what's at stake. Your obsession could doom us." She shot back, her voice ringing in the suffocating silence laden with regret. The air crackled, thickening with the desperation of spirits yearning to tell their tales. As Jake searched for the right words to convince Naomi, a low, vibrating rumble emanated from the rafters, causing dust to rain down around them. "Listen!" Jake yelled, throwing his hands up. It was a mad scramble to silence the noise in his head, to mesh it with the screams of the forgotten souls. "We can't turn back. Can't you see? They need us." Naomi stood rooted, legs trembling, desperation mixing with defiance. Jake could see the battle raging within her, fear wrestling with an instinct to push forward. He held her gaze, trying to breathe conviction into their floundering hope. Just then, a figure formed from the shadows, sharp and ominous, with a face shrouded in darkness yet glaring with fierce clarity: betrayal, sorrow, and unimaginable dread. "Are you sure you're ready to face the truth?" it inquired in a voice that reverberated through the attic like distant thunder. I have to be," Jake stammered, the resonance of that question crashing over him. "Foolish child." The figure stepped closer, the shadows shifting but revealing an ethereal kind of clarity. Even the strongest of hearts can crumble under the weight of illumination. As Jake opened his mouth to speak, the shadows surged forth, enveloping him in a vortex of wailing echoes. The walls began to pulse, echoed cries merging with the sound of a heartbeat, strong, steady, and yet, dangerously distorted. "Do you see yet, Jake?" The figure continued, now impossibly closer, the chill of its breath biting at his skin. "They only crave release, truth could spell their doom." The shadows tightened, almost possessively, and Naomi screamed, bringing the tension to a fever pitch that erupted into silence. The air shifted, thickening with dread, and Jake took a step back, torn between the urgency of revelation and the warning hanging in the ether. Had they pushed too far? Were they merely pawns in a game laid out by unfathomable forces? "Jake!" Naomi's frantic tone cut through the air, snapping him from the turmoil swirling in his mind. "Don't! You can't just dive in without knowing the consequences." His heart felt as if it had turned to ice. Could he really unravel this web of despair, even if it meant facing horrors beyond imagination? As he steadied his breath, he realized what they risked, not just their lives, but their very souls. A final whispered warning slithered through the air. "The truth wears many masks, but behind every lie lies the essence of what could destroy you." Jake's resolve faltered. Could they push ahead, or was retreat the only option for survival? The weight of decision crashed down upon him like the silence that followed the storm, leaving both of them teetering on the precipice of fate. What lay behind that veil of darkness, and would they have the strength to face it together? The shadows shifted, surging around Jake and Naomi, suffocating the air with an electric tension. Jake's breath hitched, and he glanced at the book, the images on the pages now swirling with frantic urgency, as if desperately trying to escape the confines of the paper. "Jake!" Naomi's voice was a plea laced with terror. "We need to get out of here. Now." But the words barely registered. The figure in the shadows loomed over them, a silhouette dripping with dark promises and foreboding. "You are already ensnared," it whispered, its voice oozing malice, wrapping around Jake's heart like a vice. "You cannot run from what you are meant to uncover. No, don't listen to it." Naomi cried, terror shining in her eyes. She reached for Jake, fingers trembling as she grasped his arm tightly. "We have to go." The walls pulsed with the energy of the trapped souls, a heartbeat synchronized with the thunderous thrum of Jake's own racing heart. Images flickered in the darkness, specters crying out, hands reaching from the void, begging for release. It was as if the very fabric of the attic was alive, and it was calling to him. "Jake, come back. Naomi's voice broke through the haze of fascination and fear. He shook his head, fighting the pull of the darkness around them. I can't. I have to know what happened here. Knowing could kill us. Please, let us leave. She was on the brink now, panic fueling her urgency. With a sharp gasp, Naomi stepped back, caught by the fiendish figure that suddenly extended its cold hand toward her. A vision of her worst fears projected through the shadows, whispering promises of despair and hopelessness. Do you truly wish to save him? It taunted. Or is your heart too weak for the truth? Jake felt a chill bite through him. Naomi, don't listen. His voice cracked, but he couldn't break away from the chilling grip of the attic. The figure shifted, narrowing its focus onto him, and he could feel the weight of its attention like a dagger focused on his fragile resolve. Every truth you uncover will rip apart the veil of your existence, it warned, the shadows swirling faster now, forming a vortex that threatened to swallow them whole. You plug into the fears of the past, and it becomes your future. Naomi turned to him, the panic painted across her face, tears pooling in her eyes. Jake, I can't lose you. It's not worth it. What if it is? He shot back, his determination hardening. What if we're meant to finish this? The air thickened, an overwhelming wave of emotion washing over him, the weight of the unknown heavy like a shroud. As the figure's laughter echoed over the creaks of the attic, Jake felt an unexpected surge of courage. He had come too far. With a sudden burst of resolve, Jake stepped closer to the book, reaching to touch its pages. As his fingers brushed against the cool surface, a blinding light erupted, illuminating the attic in an otherworldly glow, causing shadows to retreat momentarily. Jake! Naomi shouted, her voice strained as she fought against the shadows that still clawed at her. Stay back! He yelled, feeling the pulse of history beating beneath his fingertips. The ominous figure recoiled, the terror in its eyes palpable. If I can connect these stories, maybe we can free them. Free them? The figure scoffed, the darkness swirling more intensely around Jake's feet. Or doom yourself forever. The light exploded brighter, consuming the darkness around him and causing Naomi to shield her eyes. Jake was enveloped in a whirlwind of emotion, the cries of the past filling his ears, tugging at his heart with desperation. And then he felt it. A surge of energy, a connection, threads of fate intertwining. They were all connected, past, present, and terrible truth, all clamoring for retribution. Naomi! He cried, voice raw with determination. We can do this together. In a flash, the shadows quivered, and the air vibrated with an electric charge as the entity faltered. Together? It hissed, the anger in its tone tangible. You think this will end well? As the piercing glow surrounded them, forming a barrier of light, Jake's adrenaline surged. He could sense the energies shifting, the balance teetering. This was it, the final stand. Would the truth unite them, or would it tear them apart? Jake's heart raced as he faced the figure, defiance sparking in his gaze. Before he could brace himself for what lay ahead, another rumble echoed through the rafters, darker, deeper, as if responding to their defiance. The attic was alive, and chaos loomed just beyond the threshold of revelation. Just then, Naomi's hand slipped into Jake's. The warmth and weight grounded him amidst the chaos. Whatever happens, we face it together, she breathed, determination tinged with fear. But as they braced for whatever came next, a chilling whisper grazed their ears, promising the end of everything. Bonded by your inquiries, unhinged by your curiosity, prepare for what lies beyond the truth, what awaited them in the depths of their pursuit. Would they find salvation or become lost in the shadows forever? The attic swirled with darkness, an inescapable vortex of swirling shadows and anguished wails that boiled around Jake and Naomi. The air crackled, vibrating with the weight of revelations hovering just out of reach. Jake clutched the book tightly, heart racing, feeling the energy thrum within it, a heartbeat of its own, pulsing with truths yet to be uncovered. Jake, we can't. Naomi's voice quavered, terror flooding her eyes. We have to find a way out. But he couldn't break away, pulled toward the mysteries buried in the pages, craving an understanding that felt essential. No. They need us. We're the only ones who can make them rest, he shouted, voice mingling with the cacophony that enveloped them. The shadows recoiled momentarily, and for a heartbeat, clarity pierced through the chaos. The need for understanding, for closure. As if sensing his determination, the specter loomed closer, its menacing form shifting as whispers echoed stories of love, betrayal, and grief that lined the memories of those lost. Jake. Naomi tried again, her grip tightening around his wrist, grounding him in the moment. This isn't just a game. It's dangerous. He met her gaze, searching for a spark of courage amidst her fear. I know, he breathed, a resolution swelling within him. But we can't let their pain linger any longer. With renewed determination, he whispered, show us the way. Instantly, the attic thrummed, shadows swirling as the temperature dropped. Caught in the pull of history unearthing itself, Jake opened the book. Bursting with radiant energy, the pages flared with images of the past. It was overwhelming, a tapestry of emotion weaving together like threads of a fraying fabric. There she was, Margaret, her sorrowful eyes locking onto his, pleading with unrestrained urgency. Find the truth. She whispered, her voice piercing through the fog swirling around them. You must finish what was begun. Suddenly, a rush of spectral energy slammed against him, lifting him up like a buoy in a storm, threatening to cleave him from reality. Shadows clawed at his arms, desperation swirling in their cries. No. You must turn back. They screamed, capturing the essence of all who suffered here. The chorus of longing grew intense, an amalgamation of regrets pushing against the walls of the attic. Hold on. Jake cried, plunging deeper into the narrative weaving in front of him, the narrative that gnawed at the very foundations of his being. In that moment, he grasped their stories, each intertwining thread building toward a focal point, a singular truth he now had to confront head-on. He could feel it within him, an understanding that spanned both time and hearts shattered across generations. The attic pulsed, energy cascading, it felt alive, thrumming with sorrow, triumph, and unfulfilled desires. He absorbed the weight of it all, leaning into the resonance of countless whispers. He saw Margaret, timeless and ethereal, guiding him toward revelations hidden beneath hurt and betrayal. But before Jake could delve further, Naomi's voice burst through the tumult. Jake! It's too much. She pulled desperately on his arm, her eyes wild with fear. We need to leave. Please. In a moment of agonizing clarity, Jake glanced into her pleading eyes, caught in that space between love and terror. Naomi, I can't. A bolt of defiance surged through him, waking something primal. This is their chance, it's why we're here. He faced the swirling shadows, unyielding. You're all connected. They'll be free through us. The shadows recoiled, voices vibrating with rage and desperation. You wish to free them. Prepare for the fallout. The figure's eyes darkened, shimmering with malice. I don't fear you. Jake shouted, gripping the book tightly, feeling the pulse of its energy. I'm here to uncover the truth. I refuse to run away. With newfound fire, he opened the book once more. Light erupted, bright and blinding, tearing through the gloom, illuminating the attic. An ethereal warmth enveloped him and Naomi, and the anguished screams transitioned into soft sighs. The shadows flickered, like dying embers slowly dispersing, releasing glimmers of hope. Together. He called, feeling the bond with Naomi strengthen as light bathed them. Their hands clasped, intertwining with the energy solidifying, illuminating the dark corners of the attic. We can end this. The book vibrated, pages dancing beneath their fingers, revealing a final eulogy of the lost souls, each revelation threading together like a delicate network revealing a past too long concealed. The truth will set you free. Echoed from the spirits, a benediction blessing their leap into the unknown. As the shadows began to dissolve into light, a sudden calm descended around them, waves of warmth enveloping Jake and Naomi, filling the air with echoes of laughter long silenced. Whispers of gratitude danced in the air, and the spectral figures began to fade, ethereal glows transforming into gentle beams of light. "Thank you," a voice washed over them like a soft breeze. In that moment, Jake understood sometimes the quest for truth comes with a price, but the burden shared can lead to healing. And then, as if responding to the first breath of truth taking flight, the attic rippled, illuminating the once foreboding space, a shard of light breaking through the heavy clouds of despair. Once and for all, the battle had ended, and relief washed over him like a soft rain, washing them clean. Together, Jake and Naomi turned toward the attic door, ready to step back into daylight, glimmers of hope unfurling in their hearts, prepared to carry with them the echoes of those who had once been forced to endure the dark. As they stepped into the light outside, the weight of generations lifted, and they emerged forever changed. The darkness had lost, and now, with the promise of healing and connection, they embraced the road ahead. But as they walked, a final whisper, soft but sincere, carried in the wind. "Thank you, for hearing us. This is their journey. This is how the past found its peace, leaving shadows to meld into the warmth of a brighter tomorrow." Remember, there's so much more to explore, so don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. The truth awaits, and only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.